The USSR, Union of Soviet Socialist Republics, was a socialist state on the Eurasian continent. It was formed on December 30th, 1922. Joseph Stalin was the first General Secretary of the USSR, and Vladimir Lenin was the first head of government. Both men were members of the Communist Party.
The rise of the USSR really started when Vladimir Lenin began to read of the communist ideals of Karl Marx and started the revolutionary group called the Bolsheviks. In 1917, the Bolsheviks overthrew Tsar Nicholas II, and Lenin was appointed the leader of the party. Lenin became the first leader of the USSR in 1922. Lenin had close ties to two other communists named Joseph Stalin and Leon Trotsky. Despite Lenin's statements that Trotsky should be the successor, Stalin took power, and fearing for his life at the extreme aggression of Stalin's leadership towards his own party, Trotsky fled to Mexico, where he wrote of his own views on communism and died. Stalin began a totalitarian rule where he killed millions of his own people, including his own son. Although Lenin was willing to use violence on the people who opposed his party and also wanted his people to stay in the country by choice, he would not use force on someone of his own party. Stalin expected his people to stay in the country by force and used violent force on anyone who disagreed with him, including his own party.
In March 1985, a longtime Communist Party politician named Mikhail Gorbachev assumed the leadership of the USSR. He inherited a stagnant economy and a political structure that made reform all but impossible. Gorbachev introduced two sets of policies that he hoped would help the USSR become a more prosperous, productive nation. The first of these was known as Glasnost, or political openness. Glasnost eliminated traces of Stalinist repression, like the banning of books and the omnipresent secret police, and gave new freedoms to Soviet citizens. Political prisoners were released. Newspapers couldn't print criticisms of the government. For the first time, parties other than the Communist Party could participate in elections. The second set of reforms was known as perestroika, or economic restructuring. The best way to revive the Soviet economy, Gorbachev thought, was to loosen the government's grip on it. He believed that private initiative would lead to innovation, so individuals and cooperatives were allowed to own businesses for the first time since the 1920s. Workers were given the right to strike for better wages and conditions. Gorbachev also encouraged foreign investment in Soviet enterprises. This atmosphere of possibility soon enveloped the Soviet Union itself. Frustration with the bad economy, combined with Gorbachev's hands-off approach to Soviet satellites, to inspire a series of independent movements in the republics of the USSR's fringes. One by one, the Baltic states, Estonia, Lithuania, and Latvia, declared their independence from Moscow. Then, in early December, the Republic of Belarus, the Russian Federation, and Ukraine broke away from the USSR and created the Commonwealth of Independent States. Weeks later, they were followed by 8 of the 9 remaining republics. At last, the mighty Soviet Union had fallen.
The Soviet Union was dismantled on December 26, 1991, just 4 days before its 69th anniversary. During its era, the Soviet Union participated in several wars, underwent a revolution, and achieved several great accomplishments. Some of these accomplishments were defeating the Kuomintang Army in northern China, forcing the Imperial Japan to surrender, defeating Nazi Germany in the Great Patriotic War, ending World War II in Western Europe, and sending the first satellite called Sputnik 1 and the first man, Yuri Gagarin, into Earth's orbit.